I'm sorry, I just had to. I know it's such a cliche shot, but you know, if you walk over a wooden bridge, you gotta film it. Okay, so look at all of these beautiful fall colors. I just couldn't resist, had to stop and take a couple of pictures. Anyway, the real reason why we are out here today is because I wanted to talk to you about one of my favorite EDC items of all times, and that is the Victorinox Swiss Army 7. More on that later though. The sun is forecasted to set in about 3 or 3.5 hours, and I'm about to embark on a hike that should take me 4 hours or so, but considering that I also wanted to brew up some water to make myself a nice cup of tea or something, probably longer. Let's hurry on, because otherwise I will have to find my way back in the pitch black dark. I do love all of the seasons, but this contrast in between those red brownish leaves, those yellow greenish leaves, and those deep dark greens of your pines and coniferous trees, I love that stuff. It looks so great. And also it looks like we might get a bit of good sunlight today, so that should make for some great photo opportunities, especially considering that there are also clouds in the sky. Yeah, I love that stuff. Let's see. Well, that was unplanned for, but at least on camera here, this looks kind of epic. Excited to see what it looks like on a bigger screen. Would you look at that? Those reflections of that tree over there. Let's see what we can do with that. Let's hope there's a nice composition in here somewhere. Okay, I know that this is starting to turn into one of my more photography related videos, and I swear to God that I'm going to talk about the Swiss Army 7 in just a second, but I need to get this shot real quick. Just a second. Anyway, let's talk about the Swiss Army 7, which is, as I said before, my favorite EDC knife at the moment, and probably one of my favorite EDC knives of all times. Well, first of all, it is a 91mm Swiss Army knife made by Victorinox, and it is, as far as I have read online, also often referred to as the Swiss Army Harvester. And that is probably because of this little blade that we're going to talk more about later. But in essence, why I absolutely love this knife for EDC is because, well, it's easy to sharpen up, as are all Victorinox knives. It is very slim, highly functional, fairly cheap, it is easy to replace. And it has just the right set of tools to complement the other stuff that I carry with me on a daily basis as my EDC. I'm going to talk more about the rest of my EDC in another video, which should come out later this week or next week. But in today's video, I wanted to go through all of the different tools that are on this Swiss Army 7 and basically demonstrate to you why this is one of the best knives that you can buy and why you should absolutely consider getting one yourself. Now, in my opinion, since this is a 91mm Alox Victorinox knife, this will most likely be compared to stuff like the Victorinox Farmer, which is essentially the same, with the only difference being this little hook knife, which the Farmer doesn't have. The Farmer does have the can opener and small flathead screwdriver instead. And other people might compare it to the Pioneer, which is again the same as the Farmer, so it's got the can opener and also it doesn't have the saw. And lastly, other people might wonder why I'm going for a knife like this, which does have a saw, but not a pair of scissors like the Farmer X or the Pioneer X. I'm also going to talk a bit about that later, but for now, again, let's crack on because I need to get this hike done before the sun sets. So we are a bit short on time, so let's go. Oh yeah, and also I'm obviously going to show this again in my EDC update video, but this is how I carry the Swiss Army 7 in this hitch and timber pouch, which is absolutely fantastic. Again, more on that in another video. Okay, so as you can see, the sun has pretty much left the chat But would you look at this? This is such a neat patch of grass. The grass on the ground is cut so neatly. I don't know if you can see that on video, but it looks kind of surreal. Beautiful. Anyway, with that being said, I think I now need a little break. I've been pretty much hiking non-stop for 2 hours or so. Okay, and here we are. Well, here is just a random bench, but I desperately do need a sip of water. So just a moment. So anyway, before we get into the tools that are on the Swiss Army 7, let's talk about the tools that are not on the Swiss Army 7. And the most important ones that I would miss on a regular basis are a nail file, a small flathead screwdriver, a pair of scissors, a pair of tweezers, and maybe a set of pliers and wire cutters. But luckily, there is another tool that I do have in my EDC that has all of these items, and that is the Leatherman Style PS, which is also TSA compliant, meaning that I can take it on an airplane, which is absolutely fantastic. So I can leave the Swiss Army 7 at home if need be, or pack it in my check bag and still carry the Style PS on me and have all of that functionality. So those two work perfectly in tandem. With that out of the way though, let's talk about the tools that are on the Swiss Army 7. Right after I finish my lunch, that is. Oh, check this huge mushroom though. Yeah, that doesn't really show on camera, but that guy is at least as big as my hand. Anyway. Looks like we almost made it to the top, or the halfway point that is. It also looks like we're about an hour away from sunset. Toppy boy. Okay, so it looks like it's about to rain. So I decided against the whole idea of making a fire and brewing myself up a little cup of tea. No big deal though. I think you all know what fires and tea outdoors looks like, so whatever. Let's talk about the tools that are on the Swiss Army 7. And let's start with the basic. And the first basic tool, in my opinion, is the cap lifter / flathead screwdriver. I don't need the bottle opener as often. I can pretty much open a bottle with whatever. But the big flathead screwdriver, on the other hand, is much appreciated and comes in handy all of the time, because I use that guy for a lot of things, but especially because a lot of the screws that hold my tripods and tripod plates in place are fastened with a flathead screwdriver. So yeah, great tool, and something that I use on an almost daily basis, sometimes, well, multiple times a day. The next basic tool on the Swiss Army 7 is the large blade, and I do particularly like the large blades on the 91mm A-Lox Swiss Army knives, because they are a bit more robust, a bit more sturdy, so they are a bit thicker than the ones that you would get on other 91mm Victorinox knives, and especially a bit more robust than the ones that you would get on something like a Cadet. So the big blade is obviously good for a lot of different things, like slicing, dicing, cutting up stuff, opening packages, cutting up vegetables, cutting up your fruit, as a cheese knife, cutting up cordage, whatever it may be. Everything that needs cutting, this guy comes in handy. And the best part is that because it's a Victorinox knife that also does have that big flathead screwdriver that is fairly robust, you don't need to use your knife a lot for prying and stuff. By the way, you can also use that larger knife to split wood, even though it's not necessarily recommended to use this for betoning. But then again, it's a slip joint knife, it's a pocket knife, it's a folding knife. There are a lot of parts on there that could break, and if you really want to baton something, you should probably go for a full-tang knife anyway. The saw is also a tool that I absolutely love. It's fantastic, especially considering its size. It cuts in both directions and is insanely aggressive. It is also fairly thin, to the point that it goes through wood rather easily, but it's not too thin so that it would bend all of the times. So that saw is just a work of art, and I absolutely love it. And while you could say that it is unnecessary to have a wood saw on your EDC knife, well, I don't know. I try to go out into the woods as often as I can, and sometimes that might mean that I want to head out into the woods right after work. And in order to do that, and in order to go for a little whittling project or whatever it is I might want to do, I do always want to have a folding knife on me that is capable of sawing up a piece of wood. And this one does that no problem. Well, well, if that isn't gorgeous. Sadly, as is so often the case, this doesn't really necessarily translate on camera, but you just have to trust me on this one. It is absolutely stunning. Got a sunset which is just about to pop right behind me. So this is the perfect opportunity to talk about the last two tools that are left on the Swiss Army 7. One of which being the awl. So the awl is great for two reasons. One, because you can use it as a hole punch and as a tool that you can use for stuff like creating a new hole in your belt. And I'm not saying that there aren't better tools for the job, but I'm saying that this is one tool that you can certainly use for that job. It also comes in handy for all kinds of like whittling or wood projects, and it makes for a fantastic ferro rod striker, which is something that I would have liked to use today to make that fire, but well, I didn't. Actually, if you think about it, not exactly the best day to make this kind of video, especially when it turns out that I'm barely even using the knife at all. But whatever, I have no idea when I will get my next chance to go out and do this, so well, just have to work with what I got. So with that, let's talk about the last tool on the Swiss Army 7, which is the tool that got the Swiss Army 7 its nickname, the Harvester. Now I'm not sure if that is an official nickname that Victorinox themselves actually used, or if that's something that I just found on the internet. Be that as it may, it's a name that absolutely fits the Swiss Army 7, because you might actually recognize the knife shape of that hook knife, because it looks very similar to something like a mushroom knife or a chestnut knife and so on. And since the knife is a lot thinner than the main knife, it is also a lot better suited to stuff like cutting up an apple or maybe peeling an apple. And since you got that hook shape, it is also very useful for more precise tasks like peeling an orange or something where you don't want to cut into the actual fruit. And yeah, it also does make for a killer packaging opener, but you know, since I do want to use that knife to cut up fruits and veggies, I don't use it for that. But anyway, that's it for the Swiss Army 7. Thank you so much for watching. I shall continue my hike back home, and I hope to make it in time before the sun sets. And yeah, till next time, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.